if we are recording this presentation. I haven't seen and I haven't heard any request to record the presentation yet, but it's okay if you're not recording.
It is recorded, sir.
Okay, thank you. So can I start yet?
Yeah, sure. The time is
Okay,
short.
so first and foremost, I would like to congratulate Polytechnic Negeri Jakarta for this conference. I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is the first conference. Of course, thank you to the moderators as well as to the organizers of this event. So the topic that is assigned to me is English skills for communication and networking. And in case you have questions, you can send me an email or you can send it to the chat box in case the question is not really that long. So I'm taking around 45 minutes to do this presentation. My presentation is divided into several sections. First, I would like to operationalize the definition of communication. Then I'm going to move on to English skills for communication. I divided it into several sections, particularly according to time frame. So I wasn't able to, because the topic came a bit late, so I wasn't able to really dig into the earlier than 1990, but I'm sure that what I have prepared will be beneficial, particularly to the researchers in this area of specialization. Then I'm going to move on to English skills for networking. We're going to look at, in the end, before closing, on global trends, particularly on English for professional communication. And then we're going to look at some of the issues that are related to Huaqiao Chalumpakit University, and particularly also in Indonesia. So first, I would like to give you a definition of English communication skills for empowerment, because English communication, as we have known, is, according to some, English is the mother of good fortune. So I think learning English, what we are here today because we would like to use English for communication. So English communication skills. That is why I would like also at the very beginning of my talk to define empowerment, because I would like us to use English communication skills as a sign of empowerment. So empowerment here is to increase control over their lives. So enable people to increase control over their lives, to gain control over the factors and decisions that shape their lives, to increase their resources and qualities, and to build capacities to gain access, partners, networks, a voice in order to gain control. So if you notice, particularly the last part of the definition, to build capacities, to gain access, partners, networks, a voice in order to gain control, is very relevant to English communication skills. Now, let's look at the definition of communication in relation to English language literacy. I took this definition from the Confederation of British Industry / National Union of Students 2011, Keller Parker and Chan 2011, and McLean 2010, as well as Al-Shayeb 2013, because they have similar definition of what communication is all about, particularly the one that is in relation to English language literacy. So according to them, communication is an application of first or second language literacy. For what? For the purposes of to produce clear, structured written work, to possess effective listening and questioning skills, to demonstrate effective negotiating and persuasion skills, and to establish networks and share information across a range of technologies. So if you notice, this kind of definition probably doesn't fit the kind of definition of communication that we have, because this communication, as I have said, I took the kind of definition that is related to in relation to English language literacy, particularly in the business field. Now, the points of interest, okay, for this English communication or English skills for communication, as I've said earlier, I divided it into 3 sections from 1990 to year 2000, from year 2001 to year 2010, and then 2011 up to the present time. So the points of interest, according to Zhao 1990, during that time, Communication to them involves physical touch. Okay, English skills for communication involves physical touch. When I say physical touch here, or when Zhao said physical touch here, it's not touching like that, but it means presence. Okay, distance slash space, that there should be time. It involves writing agreements as well as contracts, holding negotiations, listening actively, building relations, showing respect, increasing cultural sensitivity, resolving conflicts, maintaining flexibility, and analyzing audience. And according to Dixon, Harji, and Morrow in 1996, so several years later, communication also involves, aside from those mentioned by Zhao, it also involves nonverbal communication, questioning, listening, explaining, reinforcement, assertiveness, as incorporated and integrated within the strategic contexts of interviewing, counseling, and influencing. If you notice, those that were highlighted in dark, okay, those in darker font, nonverbal communication, reinforcement, assertiveness, are the ones that are used in addition to those definitions or the descriptions of Zhao in 1990. If you notice in this next slide, I have an image here. I decided really not to type myself, but I copied it. Okay, I took a photo of coming from the book of Holden, 1993, that according to them, communication, particularly English skills for communication, is divided into two sections. And these are listening and speaking. So there are 4 skills, reading and writing. And according to these people, especially in the field of business, especially if the setting is in the field of business, listening and speaking involves telephoning, socializing, giving presentations, taking part in meetings, and negotiating. Just imagine this is in the 1990s. So this is the kind of listening speaking that they would like to have, or that they would like to teach students, particularly those that are joining the business arena after graduation. And for reading and writing, this includes corresponding or correspondence, and then report writing. And the foci, or the main foci, are negotiating and socializing skills. So if you notice your books, particularly those that are 1980s or 1990s, you will be seeing a lot of negotiating and socializing skills practices. For negotiating, they would like to do they would like to have some kind of improving how to challenge, how to defend, how to emphasize information or ideas, how to insist in meetings, criticize, reassure, propose, counter propose. And for socializing, it centers on building rapport. For instance, those mentioned by Harrison and company. So there are also other settings like in hospitality industry, like in Hobson 1998, and professional communication in Barnes 1994. Then from other points of interest includes in terms of conducting research, they are fond of doing needs analysis of English communication needs. Okay, needs analysis of English communication needs. For instance, Chui, 1991, as well as English communication skills needs for specific professions. Like for instance, Glick, Host, and Tumay, 1998, for students' needs in medical profession. So what to emphasize in English communication skills training? They would like to emphasize both the content, okay, the main contents or the jargons or the specific vocabulary, as well as language. So it's not just language, it's not just grammar, it's not just accuracy, but it's also fluency in terms of knowledge of the content. For instance, it is English for engineering, English for business. You should know also some content areas there, according to Jiang 2000. Then when it reaches from 2001 to 2010, so another decade has passed, coming from a very small, okay, areas, it became diverse yet holistic. Okay, so this diversity and being holistic approach here is identified through needs analysis as well. So for instance, they've got professionals, communication skills. So these are professionals, the graduates. So they have business English communication skills needed by business graduates as perceived by business professionals. So these are the kinds of research that they are doing, like Pingyot 2005. Then they also have students' communication skills. So not only professionals, but also students who are studying to be professionals, to join the community of professionals later. especially in the field of engineering and sciences. So it's not just business, but it's also engineering and sciences. So they've got listening and communication skills, written communication skills, visual communication, etc., according to Reimer 2007. So I put here example because there are several of them who mentioned this. And then English teleconferencing, networking for contacts and advice, presenting new ideas and alternative strategies to advance towards becoming a global engineer. Again, in the field of engineering and sciences by Kasim and Ali, 2010. And then English communication practice to enhance international communication abilities. These are particularly in Asian countries like Morimura and Ono. If you notice, these family names, they are Japanese, okay? So these are like, you know, the direction of the research that they're doing, the points of interest. Then they also have computer-mediated communication. And the purpose here is to enhance communication skills by CMC, computer-mediated communication. Because during this time, 2007, or by the turn of the century, we already have our computers starting to be advanced, and it's already available in diverse areas, as well as in number 4, use of paralanguage and body language. So it's not just language, but it's there is also the need or the integration of body language, eye contact, and all of those, according to Mishra 2009. In number 5, combining verbal and nonverbal communication skills. So this is similar to number 4, that there is an integration of what's coming out from the oral cavity, as well as hand signals, eye contact, and others. Ranking English communication skills in their order of importance. So there was also an attempt to rank what is more important, which one is the most important. Is it listening? Is it writing? Is it reading? And according to Pratapong and Tatsanate 2004, when they examine, for example, in the community, in the workplace, they found that what comes first, according to the people they ask these, they send questionnaires, it should be reading, writing, listening, and speaking first. But in practice, in reality, what's going on really is that it's speaking, listening, writing, and reading that comes in this order. Okay. And then number 7, we've got integration, as well as integrating authentic material. So it's not only language, it's not only integrating verbal and verbal, but there were also attempts to look at integrating authentic materials and immersing students or learners into authentic materials. And number 8, addressing students' affects. That's not affect, but affect, emotions, before teaching the 4 skills. So before you can teach the 4 skills, listening, speaking, reading, and writing, particularly in health sciences, nursing, medical technology, pharmacy, all of these, because they involves patients, then you have to address the emotions, the motivations of the persons who are learning. Number 9, developing English skills for global competence in international business, as well as promoting cross-cultural understanding. So if you notice, they become from local, they spread throughout. So they're becoming there are some kinds of integration, not only within the locality but also internationally. Then there is also some things on English communication skills towards employability. So we've got here several research, like very popular Gradle, for instance, his book on English communication skills, effective oral and written communication in English, tops the list of required employability skills. That is why I said at the very beginning, learning English or the ability to speak English probably might empower our graduates, our students, and everyone who will be working, particularly in area where English is the lingua franca. Then communicative ability involves more than mere knowledge of grammar and vocabulary. So here, as we move on, okay, so as we have globalization, they realize, particularly the researchers, that communicative ability involves more than mere knowledge of grammar and vocabulary. Employees are now required to possess a high level of language proficiency, as well as cultural pragmatic knowledge. Cultural pragmatic knowledge, meaning if you are attending the meeting, you should know the culture of the people you are joining or you are having meeting with. then good technical knowledge as well. So it's not just knowledge of culture, so it's more integration there, particularly those that are involves employability. Then we've got cultural and pragmatic knowledge involves the ability to express oneself clearly and appropriately depending on situation, interlocutors, topic, time, and place, according to Miles 2009. And then we've got a transition stage, a small transition stage of about 5 years from 2011 to 2015. So points of interest here: English communication skills, training for professionals, particularly those in the medical and medical personnel and staff. We've got Arumugam and Kaur 2011, in Yang 2011. We've got embedding communication skills across the curriculum. So they're trying to think that, hey, it's not just in English language learning, but throughout the curriculum, you have to embed English or embed communication skills in order to help students into their degrees and out into the workplace. Then there's the use of computer-assisted language learning, or the COL environment, as well as, again, the inclusion of authentic pedagogical tools to develop English communication skills, particularly in EFL and ESL classroom, like here in Thailand, we've got the EFL classroom. And then number two, another point of interest, English communication skills of customer service. So if you notice at the very beginning, we were just looking at professions, hardcore professions, business. But here we are now starting to look at or to see some examples of English communication skills of customer service. So we have even have English for spa therapists, for example, English for receptionists, and so on and so forth, as shown by the research of Sisawat and Kit Punpon and Lim in 2021. Another point of interest, so from 2016 to present, there is a massive, we can see massive digital disruption, and points of interest includes English communication skills for employability, trainings. So there's now a shift in areas to a broader remit English for communication purposes that covers specialized discourse fields, that's one, and then broader generic employability and skills and competence, according to Thomas, Piquet, and McMaster in 2016. There is also, in number two, the advent or the coming of massive online, massive open online courses, or MOOC. And according to research, they use this to help students achieve their English communication and presentation skills training. For instance, you've got their Me et al. 2016, YESAR 2020, and so on. And it is also a venue for fruitful cooperation and improved coordination between learners. Of course, we understand that in the use of digital media, in the use of technology, there are advantages and disadvantages. So this is like, you know, it depends on the instructor, the teacher, or the professor on how to use digital media in order to harness, okay, in order to harness or harvest the best out of this digital media. Now, I am showing you here because there are so many. I am not going to itemize it one by one, but I would like you to focus, I would like to draw your attention to those marked in dark in black, very really bold colors, as well as in red. For example, in YESAR 2020, there was like point of interest is in higher levels of interaction. It's not just listening, speaking, reading, writing. It's not just what do you call this? Ordinary speaking, day-to-day life activities, but it's higher levels of interaction, like debates, for example, or if you are reading, if you are writing, it involves deep discourse analysis and integration of, aside from the verbal and the non-verbal, we've got integration of online games, meaning to say people or professors start or teachers start to look at how the current context can be adapted into language learning, particularly the integration of games, interactive online contests, and live video chat rooms. And of course, because this is because of the presence during that time of Web 2.0 as well as Web 3.0 at present. So there's use of role-playing activities, use of social media like Facebook, Google Apps, video games again, by Roach and Utami, integration of English conversation rooms and chatting So for instance, on Messenger, so there is like conversation rooms there, as well as chatting integrated, online informal learning of English activities. So it's no longer in the four corners of the classroom, but they would like it to be online. Or it could be bite-sized learning. So we've got this new, a new word has been coined here, which is, or phrase has been coined here, which is bite-sized learning. And they have been using WhatsApp for this. And then we've got project-based learning, video making projects, especially during the time of the pandemic, wherein they cannot go and join they cannot hold classes in classrooms. So they've got like, video making projects and some kinds of simulations that are done outside the four corners of the classroom. Then we've got here, Higuchi and Bray. We've got CLIL, or content and language integrated learning. We've got also the use of 3D, like Second Life. I think all of you here knows what Second Life is. Then we also have Chia Blem 2020. This is what I was talking about a while ago, wherein massage therapists, receptionists, and spam managers, as well as taxi drivers in the last one here, are now being taught on how to communicate in English, particularly in the EFL context. In the ESL context, there's no need for this, because they are already, English is incorporated from the onset, okay, since they were in elementary. But for EFL, English is a foreign language or international language. English is not there. English is not a lingua franca, so it is incorporated in, they are taught separately. So English for specific purposes or English for business purposes. Now, let me just move a bit. So a kind of inspirational turning point. Now, the question is, why social network sites as resourceful settings for language learning purposes is important? Because these social network sites, or social networking sites, as we have seen earlier, they are new emerging technologies like web tools, Web 2.0 as well as Web 3.0. So they are new technologies. They are currently used at the present, and the increasing tech-savvy generation of language learners. So we understand that these young learners are tech savvy. Now let's move on to the next part. Sorry for this, I need to move it a bit. For social media network, so this is now the second part. So the first part is English communication. For English skills for networking, we are focusing on social media networking. But before I go there, let me inform you first that before social media came, the kind of networking that we are doing with our English learners, that before the internet, we have summer camps, English camps, and other kinds of networking activities that are face-to-face. But due to the advent of social media, the kind of networking that we have has changed, has shifted online. So for instance, we have career development kind of networking, enhancing your networking skills by Gombas and Loisia in 2003. Or they have even used Farmville. I'm sure some of you here still know what Farmville is. In an introductory managerial accounting course to engage students, enhance comprehension, and develop social networking skills, according to Prom 2012. And the use, for instance, of social media network like Instagram, WhatsApp, or Snapchat has been tagged to be ephemeral, and related to digital tribalism. What do I mean by ephemeral? It means it comes it comes and it goes, it come and go, okay? Once it's here, now, later, it has been changed. There's something new that comes in. Facebook, a social networking site for language learning, according to Barbosa and Aljara. And there are also like another word coming here, microblogging, in around the turn of the century, about year 2000. They use microblogging to promote interaction and communication. I think this is related to micro teaching, microblogging, so they get the idea from there. Now, the next one, number 6, reduction of text and corresponding increase in images. So we've got emoticons. We started with emoticons, and then after that, we've got these texts that are diminished, and sometimes they are they are using images instead of text to communicate. So social networking, language learning, use of Instagram for evaluating oral communication. They even use social media to evaluate oral communication skill, according to Chakmak 2020, and using social media networking sites for language learning to develop intercultural competence in language education programs. So also intercultural competence, to develop that, they're using social media. English language learning through social media, and they use this for flipped learning approach. Of course, flipped learning has been there for quite some time, even before social media, but it has been very popular when social media arrived. And then the application of English for professional purposes in international arena. Okay, let's look at that. Now, we are going to look at shift in ESP, particularly in research. I would like to share with you some of the conferences that I've attended, because this is very much related to English for business, especially in the business field, or English for professional purposes. For instance, we've got here, for instance, the 7th International GML Conference. Look at the theme: identities, languages, and company cultures, cohesion through diversity. So these are business and management conferences, but they are very much interested in identities, languages, and company cultures, cohesion through diversity. So very much related. So socio-linguistics. And then we've got also here other conferences, because I've attended this almost annually. This is the 9th in 2015, a while ago in 2013. Look at the theme again: language in global management and business, theoretical and methodological and empirical advances. Again, it's about language. So it's not even about money. They're not interested about that. And then the language research, which is a fast growing field. And if you notice, it is mixed methodology. So they've got, like, there are people who are interested in quantitative. There are those that are theoretical and conceptual, and qualitative as well. Then we've got also, that is in the 11th conference of the GML. And on the 12th, look at the topic: the impact of language on knowledge creating and sharing. When they have knowledge, when they have their projects, when they have their startups, what's the impact of language when they present this? Again, language. And they're referring here to the English language. So, and they even use Holden 2002, who says that language is the lubricant of the transfer of knowledge and values and experience from one source of common knowledge to others. So very powerful message during this conference in 2018. In 2019, they explore multiple perspectives of translation. This time it's translation in international business management. Again, it involves language. And in the 14th International Conference, they're looking at global working and language towards an understanding of global local interplay in context. Again, because of globalization and localization, so they're looking at the impact of this kind in terms of business repertoires and so on. And on the 15th, this was a few months ago. So we've got the multiple facets of language in international organizations. So how is language, the facets of language in different organizations, how is language being used? And they are looking at this as new directions for research, because they notice that language is really that powerful. And next year, this coming year, so next year, 2023, they're looking at language sensitive research in IB, or international business and management. They're going to look at current perspectives on societal changes, because they're looking at post-COVID impact of language. So in this conference, we are looking at these themes. If you notice, these themes are not even very different from the themes that I have mentioned earlier. So for instance, language learning innovations, it's entered there because we have translations, which involves machine translation right now. Then we've got linguistic diversity a while ago. Then we also have use of technology, discourse analysis, and so on. Hopefully that in the future, you're going to look at big data, social media, corpus linguistics, and metaverse as part of your conference in the very near future. Then because of digital evolution, I would like to move quickly from there because I only have the last 10 minutes. I would like to inform you that the kind of research that we can look at, or the kind of information or even lectures that we can provide to our students, probably at this current era when we have conversations, we have interactions there, probably it's coming from the different applications, coming from different concepts, ideas, for instance, in publishing, sharing, playing, networking, and buying, as well as localization. And these are all coming as e-data or big data. So big data will be one of the sites or sources or venues of what do you call this, pedagogical tools, as well as materials that can use for teaching, but at the same time they can also be used for research, those especially that are related to globalization, localization, digital disruption, biocircular green economy, and then of course post COVID-19 or COVID-19 pandemic. In Huaqiao Chalamperked University, let me pull you a bit to the university where I'm teaching. What we are doing right now in terms of English for professional purposes or English for specific purposes is that in all of these 13 faculties and all the curricular offerings, we're trying to have what we call community involvement. And then we are doing research that are related here, which are inter and cross-disciplinary, and we call them plus HCU. And then we have EFL teachers teach in tandem with professionals in the field. So in the past, it was really very, very difficult for us. So we asked these teachers to teach, for instance, English for physicians, English for medical technologists, English for lawyers, English in the business field, and so on. But it is very difficult. So what we did, we teamed up with those in the professions, not necessarily teaching, but we asked their ideas on what particular things we have to include in pedagogy or in teaching our students. And then the main problem that we have here in the university when teaching the students is that the students are not the cream of the crop, because we are a private university. All those that are top they go to the government universities, and sometimes our teachers are demotivated and directionless because sometimes they are not familiar with the jargons. They don't know sometimes the content, okay, the content, not the language, the content that they're teaching is quite difficult because it is not in their field. And of course, with budget constraints. So what we have doing in our universities that we have plus HCU and HCU plus approaches. So we've got two approaches. So if you notice here for interdisciplinary, it is plus HCU, meaning to say we let the business area lead here. Okay, so they lead in terms of ideas and so on, and then we plus our resources. But in terms of budget, normally we have HCU plus. So it's the budget that we have here plus resources that we can get outside the university. So this is basically what we're doing in terms of English for communication skills here at HCU. So the action that we are doing, how we have scaled our English for specific purposes or professional purposes project. We rolled out trainings by leveraging network of partners through MOUs. So we've got local and international MOUs and targeted teacher newbies, new entrants, and volunteers. So these trainings are targeting them because our main goal is to have mentors in the end. So we recruited volunteer mentors. So these are volunteers from attendees. We scheduled a free day, meetings, co-curricular activities, and specific or special interest groups or specific interest groups. And in level 3, teaching-led research. So from there, from that group, from the initial group, we've got teaching-led research and speakership invites, round-robin mentoring, research kiosk, research support, and incentives, some incentives, and international conferences. That is why we've got an annual international conference, which is already the 12th international conference in June 2023. So the implications for ELT. So in terms of, I'm sorry, it didn't come out, the numbers, but I think even without the numbers, you can see here that the kind of research we're conducting right now, aside from being professional, it's more on interdisciplinary and cross-disciplinary kinds of research, which means it's not just language, but it is also language that are contextualized in whatever profession. Our university is specializing in health sciences, so we've got a lot of research as regards language that are related to the use of language in those particular professions. So this is the university. So what we are doing here right now, what we want to do, we would like to use metaversity or metaverse and big data, especially in ESP. We haven't started this yet. We are about to do it. So hopefully we can use metaversity or metaverse and big data, particularly in creating or preparing pedagogical materials for our students, and particularly also in research. We have already started gathering data for this. Then, because we believe that we can do more with less, okay? We can do more with less effort, with less people. When with big data, probably we can do something that is doing more with less. Right now, we have included metaversity or metaverse. So for students, these are students who are learning English. They communicate virtually with the companies using our metaverse gadgets in the university. So we have a VR zone as well as areas where they can practice their English communication skills with companies internationally. How about the implementation across the globe? Now, this is the problem here in our country, particularly here in Thailand. Among ASEAN countries, among the 10 ASEAN countries, probably Thailand is the 9th or the 10th, the worst when it comes to English language proficiency. So I took this data from English First, okay, English First, and they conducted research. And according to their current research study that was published in 2021, adult English proficiency continues to improve slowly. Okay, that is like surprising. However, men have embraced English more than women in the past years. Adults over 30 are improving fastest. So what does it mean? It means that they are really catching up. In the workplace, English follows job function. So whatever your function, you're a police officer, then English follows how you use English in that profession. Okay, very interesting. So if you're a nurse, if you're a doctor, then English follows job function. And other kind of research here. How about in Indonesia? Okay, so how much time do I have? I still have 8 minutes. How about in Indonesia? Looking at the statistics, it came out that Indonesia is somewhere here. So it's like in low proficiency, but not very low proficiency. For Thailand, we are there in number 100. It's really very low proficiency, and we are really struggling. We have done a lot already. We have hired native speakers. We have sent our lecturers to go to native speaking countries and learn English and come back and teach our students and so on. And yet, in 2021's examination results, we're still in number 100. So we are still also, we really need to work hard on this. Surabaya. This is something like, you know, some kind of inspiration on your part, because Surabaya is found in Indonesia. It's in 522. Jakarta, where you're located, it is in 506, and it's moderates of proficiency, which is also quite interesting. So if you want to see the full statistics, you can find it here. That is interesting because in the Philippines, I think Manila is there. They're already. This is not surprising. I'm expecting them here, but they fell in high proficiency, not here. So those with high proficiencies some are coming from the African countries like Nairobi, for example. I don't know where Zagreb is, but mostly from European countries like Amsterdam, Copenhagen, Helsinki, Vienna, Stockholm, and so on. Johannesburg in South Africa. So in closing, okay, this is now the end of my talk. I would like to encourage you, as we have seen in the statistics, we still have to work hard. I would like us to read this together. It says, Good is the enemy of great. And that is one of the key reasons why we have so little that becomes great. We don't have great schools, principally because we have good schools. We don't have great government, principally because we have good government. Few people attain great lives in large part because it is just so easy to settle for a good life. For this, thank you very much. And I hope you've gotten something from my brief presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Carreon, for your very interesting, comprehensive, and remarkable presentation. For the online participant, if you have any question, you can type your question in the chat box, and we will answer the question on the Q&A session. And also you can turn on your microphone directly on the Q&A session. And for the offline participant, you can ask the question directly also, and and we will give the microphone to you. Okay. And now we move on to for the next speaker of our panel session. So thank you, Mr. Carreon. And we move on to our next keynote speaker, Dr. Vinita Dewi, SSMA.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Dr. Vinita. Can you hear my voice clearly?
Yes, can you hear mine?
Yes, it's very clear. So distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our next keynote speaker, Dr. Vinita Dewi, SSMA, from Indonesia Technology Enhanced Language Learning, or ITEL. Before we get started, I will read the brief introduction of Dr. Vinita Dewi. So Dr. Vinita Dewi, SSMA, is the teacher of professional development